Dwayne "Canine" Chapman has lived a life that could rival any action movie, complete of threat, heartbreak, and controversy, from his days in a bike gang to turning into the superstar of one of the maximum iconic Truth TV. Indicates his journey has been something but normal. But what led the man who seemed unstoppable to the threshold of dropping all of it at the back of the signature sunglasses and bounty-searching fame is a tale full of sudden twists, untold secrets and techniques, and a direction nobody may want to have predicted. So, what certainly took place to Dog the Bounty Hunter? Stay tuned to discover. You see, Dwayne "Dog" Chapman, the famous bounty hunter, had a difficult youth that formed the character he became. Born in Denver, Colorado, he grew up in a operating-class family. His father, a Navy welder, became bail bondsman, changed into strict and frequently abusive. His mom, a Sunday college teacher, tried to instill robust values in her youngsters. Searching returned, Dwayne described his adolescence as pretty everyday at the start. However, later realized just how hard it had been. His father had a temper and regularly hit him, something Dwayne notioned became regular. On the time, he even talked about a paddle his dad used that left him bruised and an ache. His father, nicknamed Flash for his boxing skills, taught him a way to combat at a younger age, believing it'd toughen him up. However, for Dwayne, all he wanted became his father's love and approval. However, at 16, Dwayne determined to depart home and joined a bike gang known as the Devil's Disciples. It became a rebellious circle away from the spiritual upbringing he had with a preacher mom and weekly church visits. While he did not see himself as a fire and brimstone preacher, he constantly defended his faith, even moving into a fight with someone who insulted Jesus. That incident earned him the nickname Canine, which one of the bikers stated, "Become God," spelled backward. From that point on, he embraced the call and the identity that came with it in the 1970s. Dog the Bounty Hunter crossed paths together with his first spouse, LaFonda Sue Darnell, at the same time as dwelling in Denver. Their connection quickly grew, and after multiple years of dating, they tied the knot in 1972. Their adventure together took them to various locations. Earlier than they eventually settled down in Pampa, Texas, in which Leonda became in the beginning. From the couple had sons Dwayne Lee Chapman, Texas, and Leland Chapman. But as their family grew, so did the cracks of their marriage. Chapman's mounting legal problems started to strain their courting and lifestyles, quickly took a turn for the worse. In 1976, Chapman were given himself concerned in a substance deal that went terribly wrong. Whilst he waited in the car, considered one of his friends got into an argument with the supplier, Oliver, and tragically shot him despite being outdoor. While the crime passed off, Texas regulation failed to absolve him of obligation due to the fact Chapman didn't file the crime. He changed into charged with murder and sentenced to 5 years in prison, even though he served handiest 18 months. Jail wasn't the cease of the road for Chapman. It turned into the turning point. During his time there, he labored as a barber for the guards, or even stepped in at some stage in a dramatic second. When an inmate attempted to break out and the guards prepared to deadly force, Chapman intervened and stored the man's lifestyles. This act of bravery earned him recognized and a proposal from one of the guards that would shape his future, turning into a bounty hunter after his early release. Chapman was hit with a mountain of toddler debt. Desperate to discover a manner to make quick cash, he grew to become bounty, searching a career course that incredibly, even the Decide in his case had advocated. The Decide had noticed something in the way Chapman carried himself at some point of his incarceration and notion he had the grit and resourcefulness for the activity. It felt like a fresh start, but for Leonda, the toll of their circumstances became too heavy to bear. By means of 1977, she filed for divorce and their paths diverged for suitable. After his divorce, Chapman turned into looking for a brand new associate. He wrote in his book that he met Untold at a biker party in Colorado that same year, and that they truly hit it off. Chapman said they left the celebration collectively that night when he supplied to pressure her home. She advised him she changed into only 17 years antique to keep away from going lower back to jail. He married her the very subsequent day later. Chapman admitted they barely knew each different and probably wouldn't have gotten married if she hadn't been underage. Even though their marriage wasn't perfect, Chapman and Tegnell had 3 children collectively. Tragically, their first baby, Zebediah, passed away rapidly after he became born. They also had sons named Wesley and James. but the relationship could not withstand the stress and that they ultimately divorced in 1982. After his divorce, Chapman faced a hard blow. He misplaced custody of his youngsters, but he wasn't one to give up, decided to reconnect with his other kids. Dwayne Lee and Leland He headed to Colorado. It was there in a bar that he crossed paths with Lisa Ray Brattain. Bold as ever, Chapman instructed her he desired to have a toddler together with her, or even supplied her money to make it take place. Rather, Lisa agreed. She left her husband, married Chapman, and collectively they'd 3 youngsters, but their marriage wasn't exactly constructed to ultimate. They were given married quick, and it grew to become out. They were not very compatible. Chapman wanted a flashy Hollywood lifestyle, even as Lisa favored a quiet life within the woods. Their variations sooner or later pulled them apart, and they divorced in 1991, leaving Chapman unmarried all over again. K-9's subsequent spouse, Tanai, entered his life at the same time as he changed into, nevertheless, married to Lisa Brattain. According to his ebook, their story started out in 1988, whilst Dog arrested Tin Knight for substance ownership. Some years later, he hired her as his secretary, and their running courting fast turned romantic. Tin Knight desired a extreme commitment, but Dog wasn't seeking out anything long time. Nevertheless, after plenty strain, he gave in and married her from the begin. Their dating was rocky. Tanai struggled with substance use again, and K-9 admitted to being untrue. Matters spiraled even similarly after K-9's mother passed away, plunging him into melancholy and substance abuse while still married to Tawny. K-9 began an affair with Beth Smith, and his marriage to Tawny unraveled. Beth Smith is the woman maximum human beings know as Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife and associate. However, their story started out lengthy earlier than they became family names. After they first crossed paths in 1988, Beth become in reality on the run from the regulation. She later shared that her problem started out whilst she changed into accused of stealing 2 lemons from a grocery store. At the same time as looking to make a name at a pay telephone, she stepped out preserving the lemons and become arrested. To complicate matters, Beth turned into also carrying an unlicensed weapon and a stack of unpaid site visitors tickets needing to get out of jail. She referred to as K-9, who turned into a bail bondsman at the time. He dispatched the office work by way of bus, leaving her behind bars for 12 hours, when Beth in the end showed up at his workplace. K-9 and Francie began courting in March 2020, and by way of May he had already proposed. Many humans weren't glad. Approximately how quick he seemed to move on from Beth, However, K-9 explained that if Beth were nevertheless here, she might have wanted him to find happiness. In September 2021, Dwayne and Francie tied the knot and began sharing glimpses of their life collectively on social media, posting images and videos in their adventures now. Not lengthy after K-9 released a film known as Hunter's Creed, reflecting on his existence after Beth's passing. He also signed a code with a streaming provider called Unleashed for a brand new show, Dog Unleashed, where he persisted his pursuit of risky criminals, but controversy struck in 2021, whilst Michael Donovan, the president of Unleashed, sued K-9, accusing him of creating racist and homophobic remarks on set and illegally the use of a taser. The lawsuit claimed Dog used the taser to intimidate someone, even as filming the canceled show, which would be unlawful due to his prior murder conviction. Dog argued the taser became simply a prop, even though the lawsuit stated in any other case. In response, K-9's legal professionals dismissed the accusations as retaliation from Donovan after their enterprise deal fell apart. They promised the claims would be thrown out, and K-9 vowed to sue Donovan for defamation as soon as that passed off behind the headlines. K-9 confronted some other project. His criminal problems prolonged to unpaid taxes. By 2022, he owed $19.45, $6 million in taxes across Colorado and Hawaii, forcing him to make difficult financial decisions. He sold the Colorado mansion he and Beth had bought 13 years earlier for $750,000. With the housing market booming, he bought the assets for nearly double its authentic rate, bringing in approximately $11.59 million to assist settle his debts. Dog the Bounty Hunter won't be on TV as plenty these days. However, he's still locating methods to make headlines. Recently, he stirred up controversy during a public appearance with a televangelist wherein he went on a rant towards transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. His comments, which protected misgendering Mulvaney and making threatening comments, sparked backlash and reignited debate over his outspoken personality. Amid this controversy, K9 has embraced a brand new bankruptcy in his lifestyles as a Christian influencer. He even wrote an ebook, 9 Lives Accounting, where he shares his adventure to faith. Dog believes his cause has shifted from bounty hunting to saving souls, viewing his new mission as a spiritual calling. Nonetheless, by using his admission, he hasn't left his antique 50-50 self entirely in the back of. He describes himself as a Christian outlaw, a person who is simply as captivated with chasing fugitives as he is ready assisting others discover redemption.